Good morning and welcome to Meet the Expert. My name is Karen Caraballo and I'm a patient and family specialist here in the Patients Library and Welcome Center. And we present these sessions each Tuesday and Wednesday at 10 a.m. And today's topic is Navigating Cancer, the Mental Health Connection. So before we get started, I just have a quick disclaimer. The content in this presentation is not intended to be medical advice, and the viewers should consult the physician if they have any medical questions. Also, not relate on information contained in this presentation for immediate or urgent medical needs. And if you think you might be having a medical emergency, call your physician, go to the nearest emergency department, or call 911 immediately. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, also call 988. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking care because you watched this presentation. Additionally, today's session is being recorded, so we have turned off cameras and muted microphone just to protect your privacy. If you have any question, please use the Q&A tab to type your question to our expert during our presentation. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. We have Melissa Rice and Latoya Hemmings, who are outpatient social workers at Moffitt Cancer Center. So with that, welcome Melissa and Latoya.
Hello. So my name is Latoya, and we're going to go ahead and kick off this presentation. So I want to start off by thanking everyone for taking the time to be here today. I know your time is very valuable. So today we'll be discussing some mental health stigmas, some information on anxiety, depression, and how we can cope for our overall well-being. So I want to start off by talking about mental health stigmas. No matter how subtle, obvious, big, or small, mental health stigmas can be harmful and they do cause an impact. So when we're referring to mental health stigmas, it can refer to those unfair attitudes and beliefs towards those with mental health challenges. And today we're going to talk about 3 different types of mental health stigmas. It can be public, self, and structural. So public stigma usually refers to those negative attitudes and beliefs that others have towards those with mental illnesses. And an example of that would be like sometimes how we see in the media, TV shows, movies, they sometimes portray those with mental illnesses as being dangerous or incapable. And those negative stereotypes often feed into what we say the negative stigmas. And another example of stigma can be self-stigmas. So this refers to those negative attitudes or internalized shames that someone may feel about their own mental health diagnosis. And that can also come from public stigma. So seeing in these movies and these TV shows that those with mental health illnesses are dangerous or unjust, you may start to feel like that about your own mental illness. So your environment and what you see can really play a role in self-stigma. And then another example can be structural stigma. That refers to stigma on more of like a systematic scale. So it refers to government policies or private organizations that limit opportunities for those with mental illnesses, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. So that can be examples would refer to like fewer mental health resources and compared to other healthcare resources, or fewer funding for mental health research. So mental health stigmas are, it's really important to be aware of how mental health stigmas can impact you. And it's important to be aware of how we can combat these stigmas and how we can just be confident in ourselves and our abilities. So one thing I want to touch on is how that research shows that more than half of people with mental health disorders delay seeking treatment or avoid seeking treatment just due to concerns about being treated differently or concerns of their livelihood being judged. So that's why it's important for us to know how we can combat these stigmas. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share this statistic to further normalize depression amongst the people, and it reads approximately 280 million people in the world suffer with depression. So when we think of depression, people with cancer often feel like they're depressed because the cancer experience can be depressing, just simply put as that. But it's a little bit deeper. So feeling like you're depressed because the cancer experience is depressing, you're having trouble adjusting to your illness and diagnosis, but you're still coping throughout your day-to-day, you're still utilizing resources to get through, and your daily function is not impacted. There's a difference between that and also feeling like the cancer experience is depressing and actually having a diagnosable condition. Next slide. So some symptoms of depression to be insightful for are loss in pleasure in activities and things that you enjoy doing. And that can be big or small. If you enjoyed listening to your favorite song and you no longer find pleasure in doing that, or it can be as big as not wanting to be around friends and family, wanting to feel like you're a failure, feeling like you're a failure to yourself, or feeling like you're a failure to friends and families, change in your eating and sleeping habits, whether that's sleeping all times of the day, not being able to sleep at night, feeling more angry or irritable than you usually are if you're noticing more that you're just snapping at people and you're not usually yourself. These are symptoms to look out for. And again, these symptoms does not mean that you have a depression disorder. It could just mean that you're having symptoms of depression, and both are okay. Your feelings are okay. You're valid in how you're feeling. But if you're experiencing these symptoms for more than 2 weeks at a time and they're starting to impact your daily functioning, research shows it is best to reach out for professional help at this time. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share this quote. We're going to move on and talk a little bit about anxiety. And this statistic further normalizes anxiety amongst the people as well. So it states that anxiety disorders are the most common mental illnesses in the US, and it affects 40 million adults, or 19.1% of the population. So when we think of anxiety, we are referring to that worry, that unease, that feeling of that something bad is going to happen. And, it's okay to be anxious because you're worried about appointments or you're worried about where your life is going to go or what it's going to entail. But again, there's a big difference between being anxious and letting your anxiety consume you and actually having an anxiety disorder. Next slide. So some of the symptoms of anxiety to be insightful for are feeling like you're not able to turn off these racing thoughts, lack of focus and difficulty obtaining new information, trouble sleeping most nights, staying up, thoughts racing, and you can't get sleep at all, frequent crying spells, you're breaking out crying just from maybe walking to the mailbox or maybe just washing dishes. And some physical symptoms can include like dry mouth, trembles, shakes, tense muscles, and having that overall feeling of just being uneased or just nervous and on edge. Again, having these symptoms does not mean that you have an anxiety disorder. It just means that these are symptoms to look out for. And if it starts to impact your daily functioning and how you're getting through your day-to-day, research shows that it is best to seek professional help. And I just want to normalize that it is okay. Next slide, please.
Hello, so my name's Melissa, and so I just want to kind of further connection between cancer and mental health. So you did a great job laying the groundwork of what anxiety and depression are and how they can affect you. So as you can see from some statistics here, if you are having feelings of depression or anxiety or distress, you're not alone. So about 1 in 4 people who either currently have cancer or had cancer at some point in their life will experience depression. And then nearly half the people currently with cancer report having a high amount of distress, and nearly half experienced some anxiety. Not necessarily an anxiety disorder, but just some level of anxiety. And then finally, approximately 1 in 4 people with cancer experience a great deal of anxiety, and that's where it might be a diagnosable anxiety disorder at that point. Right, and then just to kind of further break this down, studies do show that people who had depression or anxiety before they had cancer are more likely to experience it after cancer compared to those with cancer who never had anxiety or depression. So what that means, while it's important for everybody with cancer to self-monitor their emotional state and how they're doing, it's especially important for those who have a history of anxiety or depression, or for those who are already experiencing anxiety or depression before their cancer diagnosis. Their symptoms might become worse after the cancer diagnosis comes. So it's very important just to kind of self-monitor for those symptoms, see if they're increasing, getting worse, or experiencing new symptoms, and to look at your coping strategies. So some coping strategies that you've used in the past, you might be able to successfully continue to use those, but sometimes because of the effects of cancer, there might be old coping strategies that you have to adjust. Maybe you can't, run 4 miles anymore. Maybe you need to take a walk, or just find other adjustments because you have less energy or some side effects from the cancer. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so another time to check in with yourself is the end of treatment. So as you can see from the slide on the left is what people kind of expect, right? I finished my infusion therapy or my radiation therapy. I'm supposed to be very excited and happy and joyful. It's a great time in my cancer journey to be kind of finished with that active treatment. But what a lot of people find is maybe they do have that feeling initially, but then they might start to experience these other more negative emotions and they're caught off guard. So first I'm going to say whatever you're feeling at the end of treatment is perfectly valid and fine. Whether it's joy, sadness, a mixture, if those feelings change over time, that's perfectly valid as well. So there's no like right or wrong way to feel. And so I'm going to go into some reasons people might not feel so joyful, especially in the weeks following the end of treatment once reality is kind of set in for them. So one reason is that even though treatment is not a great time for people, it's still a routine, right? You get used to that going into Moffitt daily, you get your treatment, maybe you're staying at the Hope Lodge, you've kind of got that structured routine. And then once treatment ends, you're back home, you don't have those daily appointments, you don't have all those people around you. And so even if a routine is not a routine we ever wanted, losing that routine can still just kind of cause some emotional difficulties in adjusting to the loss of that routine. Another reason we might have a hard time after treatment is that sometimes our supports withdraw. So for a lot of people, like when they're first diagnosed and especially during active treatment, we'll have a lot of people helping out, maybe dropping off lasagnas, watching the kids, watching the pets, helping with things around the house, or, calling in every day. But sometimes the support kind of vanishes after treatment. People assume, well, the chemotherapy's done, the radiation's done, you must be fine, you don't need help anymore. But that's not always the case. A lot of patients still need ongoing support after that end of treatment, and they kind of look around and realize, well, nobody's calling me anymore. And so that lack of support can also kind of cause some emotional distress. Another reason that the end of treatment can be a hard time is a lot of people do experience those side effects from treatment. It might be temporary, it might be permanent, you might not know yet. And so adjusting to those side effects, learning how to live with them, maybe pursuing treatment for the side effects, that can also be something that causes people distress. And so taking all these things together, of course, each person's situation is different. That's kind of the general picture that a lot of people face. And so putting all those things together, some people do experience some maybe anxiety or depression or just feelings of sadness and things like that at the end of treatment. And for some people, this is the part in their cancer journey where they experience anxiety or depression for the first time. For a lot of people, they might not have had the chance to even process how they feel about their cancer diagnosis because maybe they got the diagnosis and got into treatment, all happened so quick. They really didn't sit down with themselves to kind of reflect emotionally. And now that treatment's over, they have that time. And they're experiencing those feelings of sadness or whatever. So if this sounds like you, what I encourage you to do is kind of really look at what is going on with you. What symptoms are you having? What practical things do you still need help with? And be open and honest with your support system and explain, this is what I'm feeling. This is how you can help both practically and emotionally. Because a lot of times those family and friends won't even know that you need help. And so having that honest conversation with them of, even though treatment's done, I'm still having these challenges and I need your support. A lot of times that can kind of flip the script with them, and instead of them saying things like, oh, you should be happy treatment has ended, they'll realize that you do need still some assistance. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we've been talking about these really difficult things, right? Anxiety and depression and those kinds of things. So we didn't want to talk about those things without also addressing things that we can do to cope with it. Right, so as you can see, I've got 4 types of coping strategies listed here, and I want to preface this with there's no magic wand, right? It's not like do ABC and you're going to feel 100% great. However, there are things we can do to help ourselves cope. So while we can't control our initial emotional reactions to anything, we can control what we do with those emotions. And so that's where these coping strategies come in. So I'm feeling X, Y, Z, that's perfectly valid, perfectly fine, but what do I do with those emotions? And so one way of coping is problem focused, exactly what it sounds like. So that's where you take steps to address the problem. Now, obviously with cancer, we can't make that go away, right? And a lot of things might feel out of our control. However, there are still things that are within our control. So we can do things like look at the appointment schedule we have, look at what needs we'll have during treatment, kind of break down tasks and figure out where we need assistance. Maybe you get in a physical appointment book to keep track of appointments. Maybe you create a list of all the people who have volunteered to help and decide who's going to help with what, things like that. Another type of coping is emotion focused, and this type is particularly useful when the situation can't be changed, which obviously is the case with cancer. So again, while we can't control that initial emotional reaction, and any reaction is fine, we're all human, whatever we feel is what we feel. We still have control over how we manage those emotions and how we process them. We can choose to ignore them, which will probably have consequences later down the line, or we can choose to process them in a healthy way. And so emotion focused is kind of addressing those initial emotional reactions. So if you're feeling particularly stressed or particularly unhappy, what can I do to improve my mood? So this is really more focused on improving that mood in the moment. So just things that help you to de-stress or to relax. And then the next kind of problem or coping strategy is meaning focused. And that is where we kind of reframe or change the way that we see our stressors. So that's where you kind of take a step back and reflect on the situation from kind of like an outsider perspective, like how others might see your situation. So this is not where you just ruminate on the fact that you have cancer and kind of think on that all the time, but this is where you just take a step back and think, okay, I've got this diagnosis, but how might others see it? And some people might also find meaning in applying their particular spiritual beliefs to their situation if they have any. And then finally, there is social focused coping, and that's where you talk to loved ones, maybe you join a support group, find a mentor, get some counseling or therapy. Research has shown that talking with others can be a very helpful coping strategy, given that it is not just rumination. So if you are just repeatedly rehashing the situation with no kind of problem solving or like goal in the conversation, if you're just going over the same emotions and kind of venting time and time again, that has been proven to be harmful. But if you are talking with others in a like goal-focused manner, to process your emotions, to have purpose behind it, to reframe, again, going back to that meaning focus, to reframe your perception of your stressors, that is the kind of social focus coping that has a positive impact. If we just repeatedly have the same conversations about negative emotion of no purpose, that can get us stuck into negative thought patterns. So now I want to take a moment. If anybody wants to put in the chat any particular coping strategies that they use, I'd love to hear any, if anybody wants to volunteer. And if not, we'll just move on. Right. Right, so some particular coping ideas. There's no right or wrong, right? Oh, okay, we have one, reading and being outdoors. Yep, that's a great one. Anybody else? Journaling. I see journaling. Good. Yep. Prayer. Yep. Taking a bath and playing with my dog. All right, good. Yeah, those are all like great coping strategies. So I put up some ideas here. What's right for you just depends on your personality, what you like to do. I'm not going to read off everything, but some of the things include like reframing those negative thoughts, building something engaging in something creative, whether that's creating music, playing music, painting, drawing, that kind of thing, meditating, breathing exercises, doing something physical if you're able to, like yoga or taking a walk, exercising. So there's all kinds of different coping ideas that you can do. All right, next slide, please.
All right, so we can't talk about all these great things without talking about supportive resources. So I want to first start off by talking about social work. So social work is here to provide emotional support, but we also can help with concrete needs and help you navigate the Moffitt system to get access to resources and just how to navigate your day-to-day. And in terms of support groups, Moffitt does have a couple of support groups here, and there are different support groups that are cancer specific. So I would just connect with your assigned social worker to get more information on specific support groups that are cancer related. And in terms of mentorship programs, again, there are specific types that are geared to different diagnoses, but Immerman Angels is a well-known mentorship program that a lot of patients find beneficial, and it will connect you to a mentor angel, someone who has been through a similar experience so that you could feel like you have someone you could connect with. So the Arts and Medicine Department is here at the Magnolia campus and at the McKinley campus. You are able to request an art cart while you're inpatient. And on the outpatient side, you are able to go into the location and just go in and do art. So you don't have to be artistic. It's really just a way to pass time and just have some fun. So I would encourage everyone to stop by there, or I believe they have videos that you can follow online as well if you're a little bit farther from campus. And in terms of chaplaincy, there are chaplains here on campus, and in the inpatient side as well, you can request a chaplain, and they're there for your spiritual distress. And they can help you define what spirituality looks like for you. And in terms of the integrated medicine department, there is a department here that promotes wellness, and they provide services such as yoga, acupuncture, guided meditation, and they also do massages as well. So those are some of our supportive resources. If you want to know a little bit deeper about each resources and what's specific to you, again, I would just contact your assigned social worker.
Yeah, and we did have those resources pasted in the chat just now, so you want to copy and paste those links if you're on a computer. And of course, if you go to Moffitt's website, you can find all of these, and you can find the social work phone number as well. So if you don't know who your assigned social worker is, that's okay. You can just call the main social work office and they'll let you know.
Thank you for viewing the sessions. We offer Live Meet the Expert sessions through Zoom. To see a full list of upcoming sessions, please visit moffitt.org or call at 813-745-1690. Thank you.